So we're back here today on the Sunshine Sports podcast to discuss about these two previous series that the Miami Marlins have played here at home against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim and the Pittsburgh Pirates. But just some housekeeping notes injury wise. So yeah, Max Meyer, he had that color. Well, he basically got a shot to the rib.
Yeah, I, I I
It
think
was
I think it was a cortisol or cortisone
yeah
shot.
that it was that. I just can't say the name.
No, yeah, it was one of those two. I just forgot which one.
Yeah, so there's that. Unfortunately, William Kempner, he is going to go have elbow surgery. So hopefully it's not Tommy John, but who knows at this point. But it's unfortunate to see a guy like him, a guy that a lot of people really rooted for to basically cut his season short. Seems like from what I've been reading that Andrew Nardi's season might be done too, because it doesn't really, there's no real indication that he's really been doing a whole lot lately.
Yeah.
I guess I guess the only positive news to come out of this is that Anthony Bender does seem like the closest to returning and out of everybody, even though Max Meyer is supposedly going to pitch again this year, but it's not really looking good for Max. But yeah, Bender. Supposedly, I think today he's supposed to be pitching against live hitters, so we'll see how that's going about. But other than that, yes, we'll get to the Kyle Stowers injury, but that will be later on in the video. And yeah, that's all the injury updates. But I guess for my overall thoughts for both these series, that the real key theme of these two series, and kind of really the key theme throughout this season, is really just the offense, man. It's the inconsistencies that we have seen from this offense, to where they could score as many as 13 runs and they can score one run in a Braxton Ashcraft Maddox that was yesterday. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I genuinely thought that the pitching overall for this weekend and for our overall these two series, with the exception of yesterday, that it did pretty well. I mean, there's nothing really too much to complain about besides the really unluckiness that Tyler Phillips has with his starts. I mean, his first start against the Angel comes down to a Leo Jimenez review at home plate. And the next one is the weirdest block call that you will ever see, because it genuinely reminded me of the one of Sandy that he got against the Philadelphia Phillies. And the I mean, look, it's just an unfortunate outcome that what happened with Marcy. Just he almost robs another home run, but the ball just merely escapes out of the glove and hops over the fence. So, other than his unluckiness, that kind of has been a part of his outing. It's the only really good play is really just with yesterday, with having to see Javi pitch, because it's never a good sign when you have to see Javi pitch. Or both Kay Gibson and John King really struggling a lot. But hand it off over to you now.
No, yeah. Real quick, just for a quick note on the injuries. As you mentioned, I did look it up. Just for reference, yeah, on CBS Sports, RotoWire, Anthony Bender on track. I don't know if you can see that. I'm blind. I don't have my glasses. But yeah, but on track to face hitters on today, Friday. So he's in AAA, right?
No, yes, he
Or
is in AAA. Yes, because he got opted, but that was because he got hurt, and because it's so long. But I want to
no,
say
yeah,
yes, but
yeah.
he's gonna have to do rehab assignments in AAA anyway. So we'll just say yes.
No, yeah. So it says the article said the Marlins have tentatively scheduled Bender to face hitters on Friday. Of course, Anthony Bender's been out with a shin injury. He injured his shin. So it said after completing a 15 pitch bullpen session Friday, Bender took the mound again Tuesday and threw 25 pitches per MLB.com. Assuming he feels fine physically coming out of the latter side session, Bender will take the next step forward by throwing against live hitters. The right-hander has been on the shelf since June 30th due to a right shin stress reaction and will likely need to complete a rehab assignment prior to being reactivated. So yeah, so there's the update on Anthony Bender. Came out yesterday or 2 days ago, 6:01 p.m. Eastern time by RotoWire. So there it is. Now, obviously we don't know what's going on with Max Meyer. Hopefully he's all right. William Kempner is probably done for the season. Something UCL related with the elbow. And as you mentioned, we'll talk about the Stowers ordeal later on. But yeah, now circling back to what you were saying about what we've seen over these last two series, I do think the pitching has been amazing. And we're gonna talk about it, minus a couple of hiccups, especially yesterday with Tyler Phillips and company. I do think that the pitching has been amazing. We saw Yuri Perez light it up in his most recent start. Sandy's been dealing pretty well. I always feel like if you have your top two pitchers going at the rate that they've been going, then you're going to set yourself up for a lot of success and a lot of wins. And they've definitely been doing that. We've gotten a lot of big performances out of the bullpen. Peterson, uh, Fairbanks, I mean, you can go up and down, uh, you know, even, Peterson, Fairbanks, Calvin Fauché. Victor, amazing. He's been on a roll as of late. Victor Vodnik, ever since getting him from Colorado at the deadline, I feel like he's been solid. Minus that one outing in Atlanta, which was already over by the time he went in. Um, who else? Cade Gibson, I think, has looked good a little bit as well. So yeah, so we're just getting good pitching from the starters. We're getting good pitching from the bullpen, and you're seeing guys step up. Offensively, up and down as usual, but the pitching for sure has been wonderful. And once we get into the Pirates game, the first game, when we talk about Yuri Perez, we're gonna dive into that more for sure. But yes, the pitching has been tremendous over these last two series.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like that's really been a real bright spot for this team. But other than that, I feel like it's now talking about the first Los Angeles Angels game, the the famous was Leo Jimenez out at home plate. But before we get into that, yes, this was the Tyler Phillips game on Mike Trout's birthday, funny enough, and the Pokemon Go night. I'm like pretty sure it was, but that's an irrelevant fact. Overall, I've been surprised to see Philip again. It seems like with these guys like Tyler Phillips and with some exception with Jansen Junk that they only really trust him to go through the lineup two times, and after it's two times through the lineup, they kind of just cut it off from there. Because that's why I was genuinely really surprised by how early he was taken out, especially with Michael Pearson, getting that fifth inning and kind of locking it down from there. Other than that, yeah, the real summary for this game for the majority of it was just the offense just really struggling to put up any type of runs. I know that third inning, especially like, Ruiz doubles, Kyle Stowers singles, but yet Al Lopez grounds out into a fielder's choice, getting Ruiz out at home. I mean, other than that, I mean, I know they tied it for a little bit with Marcy. He had this is kind of another, good bat to see come around slowly but surely over time is Jacob Marcy. And I know, yes, in this first Angels game, he gets a really great bunt, and Stowers gets an RBI walk with the bases loaded to tie it. But other than that, man, it's just like the offense was very sporadic throughout this entire game. But I guess the real standouts is really just a guy like Otto Lopez and Xavier Edwards. Just they've slowly gotten it out of this slump, but at the same time, it just feels like, man, both of those guys struggling right now. It hurts a lot for this team.
No, yeah, absolutely. I actually wrote it down when I did the recap for that game that the offense was just anemic. But the two biggest catalysts for why the offense has been so lackluster has been that our two best hitters, arguably, have not been seen. I wrote it down here. Otto Lopez went 0 for 5 that night. And at the time, over his last 20 games, at that particular moment, after game one against the Angels, I wrote it down. He was hitting an abysmal 198 over his last 20 games. So, his batting average has dropped significantly. I believe well over 20 points from where it was at All Star break. Um, Edwards also has been invisible. He also went over 5 in that game. And then you also add on to the fact that Conine went 0 for 3, Joe Mack went 0 for 4. Some of your better bats, they haven't been showing up. And this was an example of that. The only big offense that you could really say was that, you mentioned Kyle Stowers. He had a 4-hit night on that particular game. That was the fifth time he's done that in his career. Um, and then Leo Jimenez and Augustine Ramirez had 2 hits each as well in that game. But other than that, the offense was terrible. I mean, 13 men on base on that particular night. You went 3-4-11 with runners in scoring position. That's just not going to get it done. It doesn't matter how good your pitching staff is. When you can't hit, you can't produce runs, and when you can't produce runs, you can't win. Because in order to win a baseball game, you got to score more than the other team. It is what it is. Simple, cut and dry, and they couldn't do that. Tyler Phillips, I don't understand what the deal is. I don't know why Clayton continues to do these weird things where he pitches only 4 innings or 5 innings, or not even five, 4 innings, like 3, 4 innings, and he sits. Like, only 61 pitches, and at the time he wasn't even doing bad. He At the time he got pulled, he recorded 5 strikeouts, and as you mentioned, the only run that he gave up was that solo shot to Mike Trout. Um, but yeah, I don't understand why Clayton doesn't. I don't want to say he doesn't have trust in Tyler Phillips, but maybe he just doesn't believe that the opposing batting orders can, with the third time against him. I don't know what it is, but that's the only thing that I could think of, because Tyler Phillips, I don't see why you wouldn't have trust in him, because he's a guy that throws heat. He's very good at what he does, and yeah. So it's very weird. Tyler Phillips only 4 innings, and then Peterson comes in. The bullpen was fine. Peterson came in. I believe he pitched innings 5 through 7 in that particular game. And then I think Fauché got the eighth, and then John King got the ninth, if
This
I'm
is a
not
Josh
mistaken.
Eknes game. This was a Josh Eknes game that
Oh,
he
that's
comes
right.
in
That's right. That's
the
right. I
seventh
forgot.
inning.
That's right. Yeah, he replaced. Yeah, that's right. That's right. He replaced Peterson in the sixth, and then he pitched the seventh. Then that's right. The seventh was horrible. Um, yeah, that's right. No wonder I have it written down here. Duh. Yeah, Josh Eknes. That's right. A seventh inning. Yup, the seventh inning nightmare. That's right. I remember he gave off the leadoff walk to Josh Lowe, and then after getting the next 2 outs, all hell breaks loose. So I remember he committed a fielding error, if I'm not mistaken, or somebody
Yeah.
did, and yeah, and then it just went downhill from there. So really, you could chalk up this loss to a bad break from Eknes, but also just the main thing is the offense not doing anything. That's what you could break that down to.
Oh yeah. I mean, this was really like Eknes's first real blemish, really, in his major league career. So I'm not gonna really harp on it too much with him, because honestly, it just kind of is what it is. He has a bad game. It's fine. But the real main thing that you really just wish is that the offense would come more alive better. But so the game ends, unfortunately, with, I know Leo Jimenez. Yes, he does a good thing in driving in Augustine Ramirez, but I've seen this replay so many times, really, just on that night and the next day of Leo Jimenez out at home. I literally have no idea just really how close it truly is, because it's such a hard angle to see when you only get like 3 or 4 angles of it. But to me, at least, when I watch the Leo Jimenez out at home, it does seem like that it's too hard to tell when and if his hand touches home plate before he gets tagged. But at that situation, you would have really wished, like we both mentioned in both our recaps, that Jimenez would have stopped at third just to see what Joe Mack could have done to at least tie the game at, I believe, yeah, at 4 at that moment. But it's an unfortunate event. but at the same time, you can't really put yourself in that situation. But so yeah, the Marlins lose that game, and now as we transition to game two, this was the first time that Jacob Marcy. I didn't even realize it's the first time that Marcy had led off in the leadoff spot since June 28th. I thought that was pretty interesting. But the real story of this game, without a doubt, is Sandy Alcantara breaking the all-time record for most innings pitched in a Miami Marlins uniform, passing Ricky Nolasco. There's nothing more you could say, man. This is without question. Even though I still have a lot of strong feelings towards Jose Fernandez, that Sandy Alcantara is the best guy, the best Miami Marlins pitcher that they have ever had since acquiring him from St. Louis. I mean, he prides himself on being a workhorse, and honestly, man, like there's nothing really more. I mean, this was a great Sandy start. He propels this team to win. Everybody is there to see Sandy. Thankfully this time too, they got the graphics on point this time, unlike the other times. But yeah, there's nothing. I guess for the pitching wise, Sandy really just continues to show why he's an all time great for this franchise, and hopefully, eventually, he gets his name and jersey number retired here at Lone Depot Park.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And, you could make the argument that he's the best pitcher, not just in the last 10, 15 years, but probably in franchise history. He certainly deserves his recognition as one of the best pitchers in the game. And in my opinion, he is the best pitcher that this franchise has ever had, just in terms of longevity, in terms of what he's been able to accomplish here. Unfortunately, people are going to look at mainly, the playoff stuff and say, oh, but he's only played, 3 playoff games, whatever. But sometimes that's not the whole story. And, Sandy has been just wonderful for this franchise ever since he got traded here from St. Louis. It's been nothing but a steal of a trade. He's proven to be um, just tremendous on the mound. He's amazing composure. His maturity is off the charts, and he doesn't even treat this like it's a job. He treats it like he doesn't take his skills nor his position for granted. You hear him every after every start. He's always giving credit to his teammates, to the people around him. He's very, very unselfish. So to see him break a whole bunch of these records is tremendous, in my opinion. And it's nothing but gratifying. We talked about he's becoming the all-time leader in innings pitched. He's 3 records broken this year. With the strikeouts, with the innings pitched, with the quality starts. I mean, he's starting to etch his name atop, the leaderboards for almost every major pitching category that you could think of. So, he's just been great, and as of now, recently, he's probably this is probably the best stretch that we've seen of his entire career, arguably. Um, the season high tying 8 strikeout performance in this second game against Anaheim. He doesn't allow a run in 20 consecutive innings. That's hard to do. I mean, I don't care what era you're looking at. When you don't allow an earned run for 20 consecutive innings, when you're a workhorse of a staff, when you're seeing the same batting order 3, 4 times in one game, that's pretty impressive. So, yeah, he's just been amazing. And to be honest with you, as a Marlins fan, um, it's been nothing but a pleasure and a joy to watch him pitch for all these years. And he's not stopping. He's not he's not slowing down anytime soon. Um, and yeah, and speaking of Sandy, I know we're gonna talk about it at the tail end, but he's pitching tonight against Cincinnati, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I can't words can't really put words can't describe how awesome he's been. He's just been amazing.
No, absolutely. I guess the one last thing, because this is another record that he might have a chance to break this season, is the most starts in Marlins history. So I want to say the last time, because I remember watching this on Fish on First live stream. I believe he has 4 more starts to break the record. So I guess counting tonight, the number is 3 now. So He, so yeah, I know he's going to pitch against Boston. He should pitch against the Nationals. So September might be the month that we might be sitting here talking about Sandy yet again breaking another record for this franchise. But um, other than talking about Sandy, I feel like the main thing to come out of this game too, with a 7-0 win over the Angels, was really just the offense, man, just looking revitalized, especially Otto Lopez and Xavier Edwards cashing in runners, in the third inning. It was a great thing to watch, really, just to see those guys really get it going, man. They're slowly starting to get it going, in a very important stretch that this team really needs those guys to get it going. Um, Another thing I guess I like to put out, obviously, Jacob Marcy continues to really slowly revitalize and salvage a lot of his season. He had a really good triple that Xavier Edwards was able to cash him in on. A great diving catch that, I know he misses another diving catch, I guess, later on in the third game of the Angels series. But honestly, dude, like, the thing I always give credit to Jacob Marcy is that despite all his struggles, he always comes in with, you know, a great attitude about it. He isn't really trying to bring anyone down, and he always brings the same energy and effort on both sides of the plate every day. And you can really see it with that defense of his too. I know that statistically, his defense is not the best, but when you watch him play, man, it's a totally different story.
Yeah, Marcy has been great. Is he the best batter? No. Has he been turning it up as of late? Yes. There's no doubt he's had a bad season compared to the rookie year that he had last year, of course. Um, but yeah, if there's, also too, the offense has been an issue, and he doesn't have the strongest arm. But man, you can't tell me that he's not a good fielder. If there's one thing that he does have that he always brings to the table is that he's a tremendous fielder. He has excellent fielding skills. You see him rob home runs constantly, making catches in center field, diving catches up against the wall. He does it. He does it all. So tremendous, defensively in terms of fielding. And yes, as you mentioned, he is starting to break out of his season-long offensive slump. It's not happening in a flashy way, but getting on base, if he could do that consistently for the rest of the season, then that's something that we're definitely going to hang our hats on as we enter the next year. Um, but yeah, this just, the offense, the middle infielders, I also wrote it down. I made it a point of emphasis. Xavier Edwards, great. We just mentioned it. Him and Otto, they've been in a prolonged slump offensively. So for them to come out in this game, X getting 3 RBIs, going 2 for 4, Otto going 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs. I mean, that's the stuff that you expect from them. That's what you want from them. So to see them do that in a game, especially against a weak pitching staff, a staff that you should take advantage of, to see them do that, it was great. Also, by the way, Conine went 2 for 4 that game, and of course Edilberto Hernandez, 1 for 4 as well with the RBI. So yeah, so just great stuff all around from them, and hopefully X and Otto can get back to what they were doing early in the season. They're still not at that level, but they're getting closer to coming back. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later. But yes, they did have a great game, and they have been turning it up offensively again for sure, little by little.
No, absolutely. Well, I guess now we have to unfortunately talk about the third game, which the unfortunate event that occurred. But yes, the third game of this Angels series was also Billy the Marlins' birthday, which, man, I guess start just to talk about it now. Unfortunately, Kyle Stowers does. I believe they're now saying it's a grade 1 hamstring strain, is what it is for him. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's very unfortunate for a guy like him to get hurt, especially during such a key moment now, to where you really do need his bat, and and in some ways too, I guess his leadership too, because for what it's worth with Kyle Stowers, he considering what the experience he has relative to everyone else, he definitely is kind of like the offense's leader in a lot of aspects. But Yeah, it's unfortunate that he did get hurt and he is on the 10-day IL as of right now. But it seems like this team, as of right now, as like a temporary solution before supposedly the rookie eligibility thing expires on Saturday, before they hopefully bring up some of these better first base options than Leo Jimenez, Graham Pauley, and Griffin Conine as the bulk work option. But other than that, some things that I really like to discuss here, that Augustine Ramirez was catching in this game. This was, I think, one of the few games that he has caught. Honestly, I think, I guess as of lately, Augustine has done a little bit better at catching in terms of like him actually catching the ball more instead of trying to be so solely focused on trying to frame it to get the calls.
No, yeah. Well, by the way, before I get into this, can you hear anything in the background? No. Okay, good. Yeah, because I have my AC on and that thing is humming. But yeah, but it's really hot here in New Jersey today. Surprisingly, it is. But yeah, yeah, I think in this game, number one thing, Kyle Stowers getting hurt. Unfortunately, that happened in the fifth inning when we put up that sixth spot on the Angels, which pretty much put the game out of reach and gave us the series win. Um, you could tell immediately that he hurt his hamstring because I showed it on my phone during that recap, the Twitter post of the actual broadcast clip. He knew he messed up his hamstring. You could see it. He was running. I think he tried to make a turn to second, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, because it would have been a double if he
Yeah.
didn't hurt his hamstring.
So yeah, so he tried to make the turn to second base, and right away he clapped his hands out of frustration. Once he kind of like was hunched over on the first base bag, and unfortunately, the big thing with him has been his hamstring. I believe early in the season when he was out, it was his right hamstring. I could be wrong. I think it was his right hamstring. Now it's his left. So that's definitely a huge, huge loss for the Marlins. 10-day IL for him now. 3 to 4 weeks. He's gonna be out 3 to 4 weeks. Hopefully, he comes back sooner rather than later. But yeah, that's a big loss for sure. But other than that, if you want to move on to the positive stuff, the offense. You could make an argument that this was the most explosive outing of the season for the offense. They ended up, despite losing the first game, they were still able to put up a plus 15 run differential in this series, which makes it, just by that statistic alone, that makes this series win the most lopsided the entire season. So the offense definitely came to play in that particular day. 8 Marlins recorded a hit. Stowers, Otto Lopez, Conine, Jacob Marcy, and Javier Sanoja each recorded 2 hits. So when you got all those guys getting multi-hit games, you know that the bats, they're just cruising along, and just having a great game. Griffin Conine, 2 home runs as well in that game. 2 home runs. So just an amazing, amazing performance from the offense in that game. Pitching, solid start from Ryan Gusto. I don't know what you thought about his performance, but it was kind of cool to see him settle down after giving up a run in the first 2 innings. Um, but yeah, solid bullpen game. Ryan Gusto solid. Mikey Peterson, Tyler Zuber, Crochet, Vodnik, and then Josh Eknes. Yeah, he did allow a run, but he ended up tossing a pretty good ninth, sealed the win. Not that hard to do in a blowout, but still, you want to see how he does, especially after that atrocity that was game one. So to see him come back and have a bounce back performance in that inning of work is pretty good. Pretty good. It's pretty solid. So yeah, game three is solid, a solid, fun day. Although I will say the errors. I don't know if you remember.
I
The
was going to
errors,
get to this.
yeah, the errors are becoming so much of a problem. I don't know what's going on. The first error, Javier Sanoja, he literally makes me question if he knows what he's doing half the time. Like he's a great player, he's a great young player, has a lot of potential. But you could, again, we talk about youth. you could see how young he is when he makes calamitous errors, base running mistakes. There was a game, I forgot who it was. I believe it was against the Mets or the Braves, jumping off the second base bag and getting tagged out. Like, come on. In this particular in this particular game, he tried to get a pick by third base like he usually does, and he kicked the ball. He he he, he kicked the baseball while trying to make a pick. I don't know how that happens, but it happened. So that was his ninth error of the season at third base, his 11th total. And then Otto Lopez. I spoke about it in my most recent nightly recap. He's a good defensive player. I mean, if you watch the way that we watch, you could say he's a good defensive player. But that reputation is only going to get negated by these errors. 18 errors on the season, I believe already. This particular game, it was a 17 for throwing error. But it's like every game, this team is always making a mistake or two that could cost us. In the final outcome. Luckily, it didn't in that particular game because the Angels are horrible. But still, like these are just things to really focus on and notice when you're watching these games. Like this team has been so uh they've been fundamentally challenged. Let's put it that way. They've been fundamentally challenged, and you see it in games like this where they make not one but two errors from guys that have been doing that all season long. So yeah, it's just something to really notice and keep an eye on.
No, yeah. Well, I guess I will mention quickly about the pitching. I thought pitching did fine. Ryan Gusto, he does fine. You do obviously not his best stuff like in Atlanta, but he does fine. The thing that I was wanting to get to with the errors was really just the chaos, which was that first inning with with Stowers tripling to right, but a wild pitch with Xavier Edwards. I guess what was it? Yeah. So, yeah, it was just I forget like the entire sequence of it, but it was like, you know, like oh, why am I
Yeah, it
forgetting
was.
it?
I remember. Yeah, it was Otto Lopez was batting, and he got a single. I wrote it down here. Yeah, he got a single, and I believe it was to the third base bag. And
Yeah, yeah.
Nolan Chanel I don't know how to pronounce his name. Chanel, he got the pick and he threw it across the diamond to try to get Otto Lopez out, and the ball ends up just. I forgot who the Angels' first baseman was, but yeah, it just like literally sailed right by the first baseman, and next thing you know, X scores, and I believe Otto Lopez advanced to second or third on that particular play. To third, right? To third. That's right. That's right. Because I remember he was facing one of the dugouts as well on the broadcast angle. So yeah, yeah. So I don't know what's going on, but when you have two teams, a bad team like the Angels and a team like the Marlins who make a lot of mistakes, errors, then you're gonna have a series filled with moments like that. And yeah, that was a weird play. That was one of the weirdest plays I've ever seen. But
Yeah,
yeah,
without a doubt. I guess overall with these mental mistakes, yeah, it is, especially with your two main guys, Javi and Otto, man. I just feel like a lot of it really just comes down to just mentally just trying to make the good throw instead of trying to rush the throw. Really, that's what it's been like 90% of the time with them as a
yeah,
whole. It's nothing like outrageously bad. It's just just it's just
they
the
rush
throwing,
things.
man.
Yeah, they rush things. They rush it.
Yeah, but overall, I guess to kind of summarize here, because I did want to talk a little bit about Griffin Konai, and man, dude, that first home run he had, I still can't believe that it genuinely was that fast off his bat. Well, it was
Yeah,
115 miles per hour off the bat, which
that's crazy.
I mean, we say whatever about the second home run being on a positional player. I don't care because they still count as a home run. But yeah, dude, I guess real quickly because I know I'm going to talk about Conan a little bit later. But dude, this is I left a comment on one of the videos during the Pirate series. It's like, dude, this guy, in my opinion, at least, is the closest thing the Miami Marlins are going to get to towards a pure bat, like a pure
Mhm.
bat. Like I only going to use this guy as like an example, but like a Jordan Alvarez type of bat, to where
Yeah.
he could hit for power, and he could also hit for average at just such a crazy, bat speed and barrel rate. Like everything just jumps out to you so crazy. Just how well Conine has really been hitting the bat all year, man. When he's been healthy too, which it just really makes you wonder, man, how much better or how much more wins would this team have picked up if Conine didn't really hurt his hamstring way back at I think it was like April or May that he got hurt.
Yeah.
But
I believe. Well, yeah. I think he got hurt like the probably like the second week or the third week of the season. I could be wrong, but it was fairly early. Um, but yeah, Conine Griffin Conine is he's been tremendous. He's another guy. I think he's probably the MVP pretty much. I mean, for me, he was the MVP of July. Um, and he could certainly be in the running for MVP again in August because, as you just mentioned, he's probably the only pure bat that we have. A guy that could hit for power, hit for average. Um, he I could be wrong, but I think he's leading the team in home runs this season. If not, he's pretty close. He's second, right? Is he second or third?
well, Harry Berto leads with 17.
That's
It
right.
might be like a three-way or two-way tie between Conine and I want to say Stowers, because I
Yeah,
think
probably
Stowers
solid.
has. I know Max getting up there because he has 11 or 12, but it's still Harry Berto by a decent lead, I would
Yeah.
say.
No, yeah. So, but still, the fact that, you're seeing this kid come up and, play the way he's been playing. And I think, honestly, if we were to, talk about the whole season, regardless of how many games a guy has played, he's probably been the best batter that we've had this season. I mean, it's arguable because, of course, you mentioned Heriberto Hernandez, 17 home runs. Kyle Stowers has been pretty good since coming back from his first injury. Otto's had a good year, of course, All-Star. Xavier's had a good year. Uh, Javier Sanoja as well has had some pretty good at bats. I know he hasn't popped off like crazy, but he's also been pretty productive. But we do have a good collection of solid hitters. So if Griffin Conine stands out as the best hitter of the bunch, then that just goes to show you what type of player he is. He is the guy. He is the offensive guy because you mentioned average hitter, power hitter. When you got a guy who could do both, not just excel in one type of hitting. When you got a guy who could do both types of hitting, that's just it bodes so well for your team and it bodes well for the player. And Griffin Conine, he's looked so confident at the plate. Like he doesn't care who he's facing. He's always confident. He always knows that he can get a big hit. He's always looking for that big strike, that big home run, and he's gotten it a lot recently. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. He's been a tremendous individual as far as offensive production is concerned, and um, yeah, I just honestly I don't know what his contract is looking like. I haven't looked at that in a while, but if it's expiring soon, then I don't see why you wouldn't lock him up. Just lock him up because, and again, you have the whole factor between the father and son thing with Jeff Conine. When you take a look, when you take a look at which I've done it a little bit. I've actually watched some film, some footage of the two side by side, just for comparison, just to have fun, and you could really see that Griffin, the approach that he takes is just like Jeff. It's almost the exact same thing. So I'm all for it. I'm all for it because Jeff Conine, great player, really good batter. Was he amazing? No, but he always found a way to get on base. He always found a way to get big hits. And you're seeing Griffin Conine do the exact same thing. So it's literally like a rewind to the past, just with his son. So I think it's great. I think it's cool, and without a shadow of a doubt, he's one of the best players on this team this season in terms of offensive production. We cannot be in the position we're in now if it wasn't for him. And like you mentioned, how better would this team be or would have been? What have our record been if he would have been healthy the whole season? It's a big what if, but I'm glad that he's healthy now, and I'm glad that he's raking the ball, and I'm glad that he's doing what he's doing.
No, absolutely. And I guess another thing too, I'll mention that he's starting to do more of now, start to draw a lot more walks
Yeah.
than lately, man. It's a great thing that he's sort of chasing the ball less often than what he usually does. But well, we'll transition to what could have also been another great Griffin Conine game, but unfortunately, in this first Pirates game, just to start off, I have not seen a dude get robbed of a home run twice. Like I know the first one, man, dude. I know it's like the deepest part of the ballpark, but dude, like mere centimeters,
Yeah.
inches away. Ah, dude. I mean, I don't know what else to say, dude. It's just he was just it's right there. Just so unlucky. It's like about as unlucky as Jacob Marcy has been throughout the court over the course of this year, honestly. And the second home run, I mean, look, you have to tip your cap off to the left fielder for the Pirates, man, because he just made a great play. I
Yeah,
mean,
he did.
well, I guess to really talk about the offense, really, I guess the approach for this game. I know they only scored 2 runs in this game, but really their approach against Paul Skeens, man, it was something else to watch. I mean, they're really like getting after him, especially with making a lot of good contact on the baseball. Like I know the scores said that it was 2-0, but it genuinely could have been like a 5-0, 6-0 game if obviously Conine were to cash in on some of those home runs. But man, dude, that was definitely like an eye opening thing. But I guess really, I guess talk about the pitching aspect of it before we talk about how they won this game. Man, dude, Yuri Perez, man, I'm just so proud of this guy, dude. Like I know, man. Like I've been very like cautiously optimistic. Not too much of saying he's good or he's bad. Just in the middle with Yuri. That's how I've been since he's joined this team. But man, the tear he's really been on ever since. I personally say it's ever since that Toronto Blue Jays game before he got hurt. But dude, like he's just putting up such like Cy Young caliber just outings by him, man. Like, obviously his last outing in Atlanta wasn't all that great, but dude, like he's just been on a tear, man. He's arguably been like the Marlins like second best pitcher this year, other than Sandy, man. It's great stuff to watch, man. He's producing more ground balls now. He's less depending on fly balls, and it's great, man. It's great stuff to see out of Yuri, dude. Just this is the Yuri like we've all been wanting to see, and now we're starting to get more of it. Now, I just hope like we can hopefully see a full season's worth of Yuri Perez like this, man, because this is amazing stuff to see out of him, dude. Like, he only allows 2 walks, he strikes out 7 guys, and something more I could say. I genuinely said it in the recap too that I made. I just had no notes for it, man, because it was just amazing stuff to watch by Yuri Perez, and I just hope that this is a great side of things to come for regardless of whatever happens next year. Of just Yuri, man. Like, please extend this guy, man. Please extend him. Please extend Joe Mack as well. But this is a guy too that he's just doing great things right now, and there's nothing really no amount of words can really describe how great he's been.
Yeah, and Eury Perez, he gave a very interesting quote after the start to the media, and I'm gonna read it. It's from Kevin Barral of Fish on First. Um, so after his start, Eury Perez admitted to reporters after tonight's game, that being the Pittsburgh start, that his May 17th start against Tampa Bay was when everything changed for him. And he said, quote, "My mentality changed in terms of how I think during a game as well as my emotions. I want to enjoy the games I pitch in." That is what you want to hear. Like, Eury Perez without like, there's no doubt that he's one of the best young pitchers in the game. He's one of the best young pitchers in the game, and he's still so young. He has so much potential. I believe this is only his third or fourth year as a regular major leaguer. But I'm not one to really like. I'm a very perceptive individual. Like, I can notice things with people whether I know them or not. Um, and Eury Perez, when I've watched him pitch, I've noticed at times where he's looked a little, I don't want to say nervous, but skittish, if you will, if that's the right term. Like, he never seemed to be fully comfortable with himself or on the mound. And I've mentioned several times that he's had issues with his command and his control, especially when it comes to specific pitches like his sinker. But you could tell that he's locked in. He's locked in, and you know, the thing that stood out to me with that quote is that he says, I'm just enjoying the games that I pitch." And I think that's the mindset you got to have, like, not just in baseball, but in life. I kind of feel like you have to have a mindset where you can't worry about things that are out of your control or things that could happen or things that are a possibility. Just stay in the moment, stay within yourself, and just take care of the task at hand now. Not what happens tomorrow or what happens a week from today or a year from today. Just take control of what's in front of you now. And you could tell that Eury Perez is starting to develop that mindset. And it's working for him. When you have a guy that's relaxed, that's composed, that is mature on the mound, like Sandy, somebody that, obviously he looks to. When you have a guy with all those traits, with all those intangibles, the sky's the limit. And I'm very glad that he admitted that to the media, because I know a lot of guys, understandably so, they like to keep things to themselves, keep things a little bit more quiet, because you know how the media is. But I'm very glad that he decided to come through with that and just admit that to the media, because now the fans, the media, his teammates, they could sort of gauge what mentality, what mental space he's in right now. And this is the best. I listen, it's young, but this is the best stretch that he's had his whole career. His last 11 starts, I wrote it down. His last 11 starts, he has an ERA of 182. I know, in this particular start against the Bucs, no runners in scoring position, reached 100 pitches for the fourth time in his career. And this season, he's reached 100 pitches 3 times. So 3 of the 4 times in his career that he's been able to reach 100 pitches has taken place this season. He had his command this game, heavy four-seam usage, which I think he needs to go to. I think that's his pitch, is the four-seam fastball. That's his top pitch. Use it. Use it and stick with it. 7 innings, 7 strikeouts. I mean, it's just impeccable. This is probably the best performance of his young career. And, I believe it was Clay McCullough that said, we're not going to babysit him anymore. We're not going to babysit his arm. He's going to go deep into games, and he's doing it. Like I mentioned, 3 of the 4 times that he's been able to reach 100 pitches in his career happened this season. So you're starting to see Clayton and the coaching staff and the pitching staff, Daniel Moscas, they're giving him more of a leash. They're giving him a longer leash. They're giving him more of an opportunity to go deep into games, and it's paying off. And ultimately, if Eury Perez and the Marlins, if they want him to be the pitcher that they envision him being, then they have to let him keep doing this. And I'm glad that they're letting him doing it now. And if he continues this pace, I don't see why there's not a Cy Young in his future. I think he has a Cy Young or 2 or 3 in that right arm of his. And I think that we're starting to see him blossom into the 1A, 1B pitcher that we've always known he could be.
Nah, absolutely. I guess the other thing too that does help out Yuri, especially in that 7th inning, was the defense. When Ronnie Simon tries to go in that second, tries to go to second, Heriberto Hernandez redeems himself after a very much a slowpoke Rodriguez moment that he had trying to steal second, which I remember text that to Justin during the game because it was it was definitely the first thing that came to mind because it was like, dude, like that was just such a bad stolen base attempt by Burt, but he helps him out. He helps out Yuri there to get through 7. So shout out Burt for redeeming himself. But the real story of this game, since they did win 2-0, was Esteury Ruiz. Man, this guy continues to be honestly the best signing in the Peter Benedict's era. He literally gets a moonshot off of Paul Skeens as a 9-hole hitter.
Yeah,
Mind
the first 9-hole hitter to do that off his games the whole season.
just this is all you need. That's how crazy it is. I'm just putting my hands up, just saying, hey, like
Yeah,
that's all you need to know. And I know he gets a hit by pitch later, whatever. I'm not putting too much stock into that. Xavier Edwards, cashes in on an E6 that really just, I guess, in that moment puts away the game because the pitching was so great in that game. Other than that, I guess the two bullpen arms that we're using this game were Peterson and Fairbanks. They hold down the fort for the win. That's all you really need to know in terms of the events that occurred in this first game.
yeah. Esteury Ruiz definitely one of the best signings that Peter Bendix has made. I mean, he can hit for average, and every once in a while he can hit a home run, as we saw. With the whole thing off of Skeens, and what I like about him the most is his speed along the base paths. He's so fast. You mentioned Slowpoke Rodriguez for Ediberto Hernandez. Well, this guy's Speedy Gonzalez, literally. Um, I mean, I don't remember a time where we had a base runner like this. I mean, when was the last time we had a speeder like a speedster like this? What, Juan Pierre? I can't. I don't know. I don't remember. I mean, we've been so mediocre for so long that I forget. But but he's just amazing. Like he's just running, just watching him run along the base paths. It's an event in itself because that there's a high probability that he could reach base. He could get triples easily if he wants to. He could get doubles in his sleep. He could steal bases. Again, I'm not one to look at the stats every day, but assuming with his speed, I can only guess that Ruiz is at least top 5 on the team in stolen bases. Again, I have to double check, but
It's number 1.
he's number 1. He's number 1.
Yep.
Awesome. That's even better. But yeah, Ruiz, he's great, man, and I think for like if we're gonna have prolonged success as a franchise, then he's definitely somebody that we're gonna need now and in the future. He's a great player for who he is. He's not gonna play every day. He's not gonna get starts every day, but when he's in the lineup or when he's at the batter's box or when he's on the field, that something big could happen with him. And he was the only run producer in this particular game. Not that we needed another one because, again, Eury Perez was just incredible, along with Michael Peterson and Pete Fairbanks out of the bullpen. So shout out to those two guys. But yeah, Ruiz, just amazing, amazing stuff. A great, great, great game from him.
No, absolutely. Well, now as we move on to the second game, the game that claimed this series win right here. I guess I'll talk about pitching here. I definitely think Jansen Junk. This is definitely a really good outing by Junk. Honestly, I know that he does get a little bit unlucky there with the E6 again by Otto Lopez. That just has to be a better throw to Griffin Conine. Honestly, like I know people are like, "Well, Conine's positioning." No, it just has to be a better throw.
That was an awful throw. That was an awful throw.
But I guess before we talk about the amazing defensive play of Marcy, man, it's honestly, this was another instance of the offense just being so hot and cold. This today in this game in particular, they scored like what 8 runs, right? I want to say yes, yeah. 8 runs, and honestly, like the biggest catalyst of this was really just like Augustine Ramirez. I know he had a pretty good game as a DH, man. Like there's one thing I'll say with Augustine, man. The bat's definitely it's still there. It's still very much there. His catching as of late hasn't really been too bad. He's as long as he's to put a comparison defensively for him, as long as he's like a fourth of what the Jacob Stallings of the world, the Nick Fortes of the world defensively, he's going to be just fine. But he just has to be consistent with how he catches. But overall, yeah, the offense, they scored 8 runs. Marcy um, does very well in this game. I want to say X, he has a good game too. Augustine Ramirez, I yeah, yes, Cronine does get another home run because I was trying to remember all the stuff that happens here. Man, Griffin Conine continues to be a great offensive weapon for his team. We've already discussed about him enough, but just so everybody knows. And Heriberto Hernandez, because this was the Lake Bacher game, gets a 2-run bomb off of Lake, off of Lake too. So you know a very rude awakening and a rude welcome back to Miami for Lake Bacher in this game.
Yeah, that yeah, that's kind of funny because you hinted at it before we played the Pirates, but yeah, there's a good chance that we'll see Lake Bacher in the Pirates uniform in Lone Depot Park, and it did not go too well for him. But yeah, just amazing. The offense. This is probably one of the best offensive outings of the season. It's up there. 8 walks, 9 hits. You have your power bats, Griffin Conine and Burt going deep. Burt, a 2-run homer in the sixth that really put the game on ice. That capped off the scoring. 415-foot homer, a 2-run by the way. Um, Conine, I wrote it down. This season he has a 936 OPS and a 154 weighted runs created plus statistic. If you're into analytics, then there you go. Um, too many analytics, but still, it just puts into perspective of how productive he's been. Augustine Ramirez, I literally wrote on my note sheet, Augustine Ramirez new DH question mark. Like, back? Is he back from the dead? Is he alive? Is he here with us? Is he still with us? Is he? Well, it looked like it today. It looked like in that game. Um, I w- I will say that he has to stop chasing so much because my God, his strikeout rate is abysmal. I think it's over 35%. like like
That's probably right.
that's just stop, man. Just stop chasing. But yeah, 2 hits, had an RBI in that game. And he also scored a run. Um, the second 2-hit game since he returned. Remember, he had a 2-hit game against the Angels in the Angels series. Um, but yeah, but just great stuff offensively. But I want to emphasize something here. I wrote it down and I talked about it on that recap. We've gotten on Clay McCullough a lot, and understandably so, and reasonably so for his decisions. But he actually made an aggressive move and it paid off. So in the third inning, he subbed out Owen Casey out of the batter's box. He subbed him out. He put in Javier Sonoja in the third for Owen Casey to pinch hit. Immediately draws a walk, loads the bases, which then proceeds to give us the 3 extra runs we scored in that third inning to make the score 5-1 at that particular time. He ended up getting a hit and he scored a run. So hats off to Clay McCullough for making the move. He kept Javi at third base while shifting Jimenez from third to first. Um, but yeah, just a great move by Clay McCullough, and Javi ended up coming big, ended up having a big hit, and like I said, drew the walk that led to the extra 3 runs we got in that third inning. Pitching wise, Jansen Junk, I think the big headline or big story surrounding Jansen Junk's start was that he got 6 innings in. He was able to get through 6 innings, uh, 4 hits, 2 runs, an earned run. Again, should not be an earned run. That Otto Lopez throw was horrible. But again, 6 innings. Did he only struck out 2 batters? But again, the fact that he was able to get through 6 innings, first of all, I think it's great because, I also heard Kyle Seeloff mention it on the broadcast, or it was somebody.
It was
Uh,
the Marlins radio guy.
yeah, never mind. Yeah, it was the Marlins radio guy, and also Craig Mish on the post game show as well. He also mentioned it. You don't really get to see Jansen Junk go through get 6 innings of work when he starts. He's usually a guy that gives you 4, 5 at the most. But to see him get through 6 innings was kind of cool. It was his first time getting through that amount of work since May, since an early May game against the Nationals, an 8-7 win. Um, so yeah, so I don't know if it's an omen, but if Jansen Junk's gonna go through, if Jansen Junk gets 6 innings of work, then there's a good chance we win. So maybe he can keep doing that. Clay and keep doing that. But yeah, his third quality start of the season. Um, he had a good command of his four seamer and his slider. Definitely worked, and he had a lot. He had some good stuff going with that four seamer and his slider, so it worked in that particular game. And also defensively, again, Jacob Marcy, just an amazing diving catch in the fourth inning, as well. So yeah, just great stuff. You saw another Jacob Marcy highlight. Solid defense, solid pitching, and the offense exploded. So you can't ask for much more. A great win, and that was a really good game from everybody to clinch a series win.
No, absolutely. I mean, man, dude, I still just it's so crazy to me how Marcy made that play. It only allows the only charge run to Junk on the sac fly, but uh, yeah, it's time to talk about last. Well, I can't say about last night because it was yesterday afternoon, but woof, that was a game and a half to watch. But what you really need to know about yesterday's game is Ashcraft gets a Maddox, and the Marlins were way too over aggressive in terms of the approach at the plate. I want to say because it was brought up on the Fish on First live stream that Ashcraft had like 40 some odd pitches either in the fourth or fifth inning, which I know this team preaches aggressiveness, but again, there comes a time and point to where you gotta
Tone it
pump the
down.
gas brakes a bit. But other than that, Tyler Phillips, man, he does have some of the like weirdest luck sometimes with his outings, dude. Like the Bach call, I don't even know what that was really all about. The best that we really got out of it was something about declaring him declaring himself before the third base runner. It was the dumbest thing I ever seen since the Sandy one back in the Phillies series way back then. But yeah, and then he gets really unlucky too with the home run because Marcy. It was just really bad luck, honestly, because the ball just squirts out, and it gets over the fence, and yeah, I'm not going to really put that game on Tyler Phillips because this game was genuinely really lost when Kay Gibson and John King they just got rocked. Honestly, that's just genuinely what happened. Augustine does catch though in this game. I do think this was his best catching game since he has returned because there's no to my knowledge at least there wasn't no real pass balls. I know that there's the one with Kay Gibson, but he gets lucky that the ball deflects off the signage and comes back to him. But yeah, other than that, I mean, look, it was a 13-1 game, and Owen Casey gets the solo shot home run. That's good to see from him. The other two hits were from Jacob Marcy and Griffin Conine. That's all you need to know. That's how bad it was with Javier Sanoa pitching.
No, yeah. Again, the game got so out of hand that I have an empty page. I was gonna do a recap, but I did not feel like writing notes at all because yesterday was just so horrendous. Like you said, I'm not gonna put this on Tyler Phillips. He does have weird luck, really bad luck at times when it comes to his starts. And it's not like he did horrendous. I mean, he still struck out 6 batters. If the offense would have showed up, and if they would have stopped being over aggressive, then we would be talking about a different result here. Um, yeah, just to me, the offense should take blame for this. Again, Tyler Phillips, was it a great start? No, but I think I think we could all agree that again, if the offense would just stop being so over aggressive at the plate, and if they would get guys on base and get timely hits and actually function like a normal baseball offense, then Tyler Phillips, we wouldn't be talking about this at all in terms of Tyler Phillips. We just wouldn't. Um, just disgusting offensively. I mean, we've had so many bad games offensively this season. I don't think I'm stretching by saying that this was probably the worst because there is no way that you could get Maddoxed the way that we got. Like as you mentioned, 44, 45 pitches through just already through 5 innings or however it was. It was like I'm looking at the stat sheet. Braxton Ashcraft only 85 total pitches. He didn't even get worked. He didn't even get worked. We didn't even make him work. These guys just showed up to the park, ready to pack it in. They had the mindset of, okay, we're gonna swing, and if we make contact, great. If not, then so be it. And you can't have that mindset, man. You just can't. I mean, that's just inexcusable. You have guys, just Casey striking out twice. That was disgusting. Jimenez twice strikeouts. I know Jimenez is Jimenez, but still, I mean, just watching these guys just swing and miss, swing and miss, swing and miss every time. There was no reason to watch that game last night or yesterday. There was no reason to at all. Like by the sixth inning, I was already checked out. And like you mentioned, after Tyler left, you bring in who was it, Cade Gibson or yeah, it was Gibson and King. They get rocked. So the game was just a complete disaster from start to finish. There was nothing going on of no offense, only 3 hits if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
No, like just absolutely nothing. There's just nothing to talk about with this game.
Well, now we move on to definitely the most important series for this team as they try to make a wild card appearance, for the playoffs with the Cincinnati Reds, which you could kind of say these two teams are very similar with each other in terms of how really inconsistent they are on offense. I know the pitching for the Reds is pretty good, but man, the offense is so hot and cold, just like the Marlins, man. I know we're going to see two former Marlins in this series with JJ Bleday and the great Dane Myers. Shout out Dane. I really like this time during here in Miami, but obviously, Ellie De La Cruz, Sal Stewart are the main two guys you gotta like hold in check in this series, just without a doubt. Because those, if I had to guess, those two are probably the biggest offensive producers for this team. Outside of that, it's a lot of just inconsistent bats, man. But pitching wise, tonight as we're recording this is the Friday game with Sandy Alcantara on the mound taking on Chase Burns. Again, that's going to be a really difficult matchup for this team just because of how great Chase Burns is. Ryan Gusto gets the Saturday start against Singer, and Yuri Perez with the series finale against Nick Lodolu. I had to
Yeah.
slow down because that's a very complex last name. But honestly, it really just boils down to, the offense kind of has to be there today, and they have to really keep having great approaches, man. They got to make a lot of these pitchers work, honestly. Like, they can't do what they did yesterday, expect to really generate any good results when it clearly didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to make these pitchers work. You cannot have uh, a performance like we saw yesterday. That's a no. You can't do that. But yeah, so as you mentioned, both these teams very similar, which they are. They practically do the same things. The things they do well, they both share, and vice versa. So, uh, the Reds, they're coming off of a series win against the White Sox, 2-1 series win. Just like us, 2-1 series win over the Pirates. In terms of injuries for the Reds, really nothing too important to talk about. I mean, Steer
Oh,
was out 10-day IL with a wrist injury. Spencer Steer, I believe that's his first name, Spencer, right?
yeah, Steer. That was definitely a guy I would have liked to see him be a Marlin, though. He's pretty good.
Yeah, he is. But yeah, he's out. He's not gonna be in the series. Um, of course, the top bats. If you're talking about the Reds, if you want to find who their top bats are, definitely Ellie De La Cruz, definitely Sal Stewart. You also mentioned JJ Bleday, the former Marlin. He's also having a pretty good year. An OPS just under a few hairs under 800. 20 home run guy, 47 RBIs. Batting 220, 334, and 450. That's his flash line. Um, so yeah, if anything, this series is gonna come down to who pitches better. Like, because again, both of our offenses hot and cold. You don't know what you're gonna get. So really, the main thing, the main catalyst for determining the series is who pitches better. I talked to you before we started recording. I feel like we have a good counter matchup for what the Reds are bringing out. You talked about it tonight. They have Chase Burns. We got Sandy. Tomorrow they have Brady Singer, who struggled. We have Ryan Gusto, who's still looking for his first win as a starter. But you have those two guys going at it. Sunday, they have Lodolu on the mound. We got Yuri Perez. So I feel like we have a good. I feel like we constructed good pitching matchups for this series. So now it's just gonna come down to who executes. Is Sandy gonna come out? Is he gonna have a good start tonight? Hopefully he does. Hopefully he gives us what we're expecting, what we've been expecting of him. Um, but yeah, this series, you have two teams battling for NL wild card positioning. Marlins just 2.5 games back as of this recording. The Reds, I believe, are 5 games out or 5.5 games out. Both teams in their last 10 mediocre at best. Marlins 5-5, Reds 6-4. So yeah, it's gonna come down to who pitches better and who plays better defense. The team that does that is gonna win this series.
No, absolutely. Well, as we wrap up here, next week, since they do have a off day on Thursday, so next Friday we'll share the series recap, along with talking about a few other things with the Miami Heat schedule, and obviously now with the Dolphins having a preseason game tonight. We'll touch on that and some of our thoughts about training camp as well. But other than that, yeah, as always, like, comment, and subscribe to the Sunshine Sports Podcast. Share it with as many people as you can, and that's all I got.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, we end up winning this Red series, and of course, next week's episode, we're gonna be talking about the Marlins. We're gonna be recapping these two series here that we're facing with the Reds and Phillies. We will be talking about Dolphins training camp. We'll be getting a little bit into that, and the NBA. Yes, they did announce the full schedule, so I'm gonna be looking at that later, and we're gonna talk about the Miami Heat. By the way, I know we're gonna talk about it, but isn't it nice? 25 nationally televised games. 25. Like, I can't wait for this season. I can't wait for the Heat to come back. Can't wait for basketball. Can't wait for all this stuff. But yeah, as always, we'll see you on the flip side, and we'll catch you next time.